Right, let me ask you something. When was the last time a politician kept a promise that actually mattered to your daily life? Because if you're drawing a blank, you're about to feel very vindicated. Sadiq Khan is back in the headlines, and surprise, surprise, it's not for opening new community centres or cutting ribbon at playgrounds. No, this time our beloved mayor has decided that what London really needs is fewer places to actually speak to a police officer face to face. Because nothing says community policing quite like making people travel 12 miles just to report their bike got nicked, am I right? Welcome back to UK Daily Coffee, where we serve up your political news stronger than your morning espresso and twice as bitter. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the latest controversy that's got local councillors spitting feathers and residents questioning whether campaign promises are just expensive toilet paper in disguise. So here's what's happening. The Metropolitan Police, in their infinite wisdom and apparently infinite budget constraints, have decided to slash the number of police station front desks from 37 to just 19 across London. Now, before you think, well, that's not too bad, let me paint you a picture that'll make your blood pressure monitor start sweating. If these closures go ahead, the entire borough of Hillingdon, that's over 300,000 people, will have exactly 0 police stations where you can walk in and speak to an actual human being. 0. None. Zilch. Your options will be to either phone it in, fill out a form online, or hop on a lovely 12-mile journey to Acton just to tell someone your shed got broken into. Now, Ian Edwards, the leader of Hillingdon Council, is absolutely fuming about this, and frankly, he's not mincing his words. He's accused Khan of breaking yet another election promise, calling the decision utterly inadequate and saying it further removing policing from communities. And you know what? When a councillor starts using phrases like utterly inadequate, you know someone's really stepped in it. But here's where it gets spicy. Edwards isn't just moaning about the practicalities, though let's be honest, forcing crime victims to take a cross-London expedition just to file a report is pretty mental. He's pointing out something much more fundamental. This is the second major promise that's been broken. Danny Beale's promise to keep Uxbridge Police Station open during his election campaign. How's that working out? Spoiler alert, it's not. Edwards is asking the question we're all thinking, can you trust Labour promises? And honestly, at this point, trusting a politician's campaign promise is like trusting a chocolate teapot to hold hot water, theoretically possible, practically disastrous. Now, let's talk about what this actually means for regular people, because that's what really matters here. Edwards has been getting emails and letters from crime victims and parents whose kids have been assaulted, all asking the same question, where does this leave us? And it's a bloody good question, isn't it? The community response has been about as enthusiastic as a vegetarian at a bacon festival. Edwards says social media is the buzz with the news, and nobody, and I mean nobody, is supporting it. Facebook groups are going mental, community pages are in uproar, and residents are asking very reasonable questions about backup and police investment in their safety. But here's what really gets me about this whole mess. The closure has been planned, according to Edwards, without thinking of alternatives. In 2024, when we can order takeaway with our voices and have video calls with people on the other side of the planet, the best solution London's police can come up with is travel to Acton. It's like solving traffic congestion by removing all the roads. Edwards suggests virtual police stations using Zoom or Teams, revolutionary technology from, about 2010. But apparently, that's too complicated. Instead, the solution is to make people trek across London like they're on some sort of bureaucratic pilgrimage. This isn't happening in isolation either. Edwards describes it as a drip, drip, drip removal of policing from local communities. First, they restructured the boroughs, breaking the close alignment between local areas and their police forces. Now they're removing the physical presence entirely. It's like they're trying to make policing as abstract and distant as possible. And here's something Edwards said that really hit home: police stations have symbolism. They're like old castles of fort, a sign of law and order. When you remove that physical presence, you're not just cutting costs, you're sending a message that law and order is retreating from communities. That's not just bad policy, it's bad psychology. The fear of crime is real, and while Hillingdon might be relatively safe compared to some hotspots, that doesn't mean problems don't exist. Edwards is right, communities are entitled to accessible policing, and that accessibility is starting to fray like a cheap jumper after too many washes. But wait, there's more. This closure doesn't just affect people reporting crimes. People on bail who have to report to police stations will also have to schlep to Acton. Edwards raises a brilliant point. Are courts really going to make it a bail condition that someone travels that far? And if they don't show up because it's too far, police have to go hunt them down, creating even more work. It's like solving one problem by creating 3 bigger ones. Now, let's talk about the money, because that's what this is really about. Edwards is particularly scathing about Sadiq Khan's handling of police funding. The mayor raises the precept, that's the bit of your council tax that goes to police, year after year at a much higher rate than councils raise their tax, and somehow still can't fund basic policing services. Edwards calls it quite unbelievable, and frankly, I'm inclined to agree. The accusation is clear, Khan is prioritizing other projects over community safety. When you're raising taxes specifically for policing but still can't keep police stations open, people start asking awkward questions about where exactly that money is going. Edwards's conclusion is damning. It isn't so much the reporting crime that worries me, it is the symbolism of the police not being present in communities. They might be addressing demand on paper, but they're not considering reassurance or the actual value to communities. It's like solving hospital overcrowding by closing hospitals, technically efficient, practically insane. Now, naturally, everyone involved has rushed to defend themselves with the sort of corporate speak that would make a PR consultant weep with joy. The mayor's office says nothing is more important to Khan than keeping Londoners safe, which is interesting timing given he's just made it harder for Londoners to access police services. They're calling it an operational decision for the Met based on resources and funding, which is political speak for not our fault, Gov. They blame over a decade of cuts worth over £1 billion under the previous government, conveniently ignoring that they've been in charge of London for years and somehow haven't managed to sort this out. The Metropolitan Police themselves say only 5% of crimes were reported using front counters last year, with most people using phone, online, or speaking to officers elsewhere. Now, that's interesting, but it raises the question, if only 5% of people are using these services, why are they so upset about losing them? Maybe because that 5% represents the most vulnerable people who can't navigate online systems or don't have reliable phone access. The Met says it's a tough choice to pursue closures, allowing them to focus resources relentlessly on tackling crime. But here's the thing about tough choices, they're only tough if you're the one making them. For the people of Hillingdon, this isn't a tough choice, it's a fait accompli that makes their lives harder. And then we have the Home Office, bless them, talking about £17.6 billion for police this year and £200 million to put 13,000 additional officers on the streets. Which sounds impressive until you realise they're simultaneously closing the places where people can actually access police services. It's like hiring more chefs while closing all the restaurants. What we're seeing here is a perfect storm of political buck-passing, budget constraints, and bureaucratic thinking that's completely divorced from reality. Everyone's got an excuse, everyone's pointing fingers, and meanwhile, the people who actually live in these communities are left wondering why they voted for any of these people in the first place. The broader picture here is about trust in public services and local democracy. When politicians make specific promises during election campaigns and then break them citing budget constraints, it raises fundamental questions about the value of electoral promises. Are they genuine commitments or just vote-winning sound bites? Edwards is right to ask whether you can trust Labour promises, but honestly, this isn't a Labour problem or a Conservative problem, it's a political system problem. We've created a culture where campaign promises are treated as aspirational rather than binding, where circumstances change is considered an adequate excuse for breaking faith with voters. The symbolism Edwards talks about matters more than politicians realise. When police stations close, when services become more remote and harder to access, it sends a message about priorities and values. It tells communities they're not important enough to deserve local services, that efficiency matters more than accessibility, that their concerns can be managed from a distance. This is happening across public services, by the way. Libraries closing, council offices reducing hours, NHS services becoming harder to access, there's a pattern here of public services retreating from communities in the name of efficiency and cost saving. But here's what really gets me. In an age where we're constantly told about the importance of community policing, building trust between police and communities, and making law enforcement more accessible, we're simultaneously making it physically harder for people to access police services. It's like trying to build bridges while removing all the roads that lead to them. The Hillingdon situation is particularly stark because it would leave an entire borough without face-to-face police access, but it's part of a wider trend that should worry anyone who cares about local democracy and public services. So what's the solution? Edward suggests virtual police stations using modern technology, video calls, online interfaces that feel more personal than forms and phone calls. It's not rocket science, it's basic adaptation to modern life. But apparently, that's too innovative for our public services. The real test here isn't just whether these closures go ahead, it's whether anyone in power is listening to the concerns being raised. When councillors, residents, and community groups are all saying the same thing, when social media is abuzz with opposition, when crime victims are writing worried letters, that should tell you something about public sentiment. Right, so here's where we stand. Sadiq Khan faces accusations of breaking another election promise with police station closures that could leave entire boroughs without face-to-face police access. Local councillors are calling it fatally inadequate, communities are up in arms, and everyone's pointing fingers about who's really to blame. The questions this raises go far beyond policing, they're about trust, accountability, and what we expect from our elected officials. When campaign promises become inconvenient post-election realities, when budget constraints trump community needs, when efficiency matters more than accessibility, we all lose something important. What do you think? Are these closures a necessary evil in tough financial times, or another example of politicians promising one thing and delivering another? Have you ever tried to report something to police and found it frustratingly difficult? And more importantly, do you still believe campaign promises, or have we all just accepted that politicians say whatever gets them elected? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to UK Daily Coffee for your daily dose of political reality. We're serving up the news that matters, the stories that affect your daily life, and the analysis that cuts through the political spin. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when we're calling out the next broken promise or bureaucratic bungle. Until tomorrow's cup of political chaos, this has been your host keeping you caffeinated and informed.